Okay. We're going to jump over the approvals, et cetera, till we have a quorum. Okay. Because we're waiting on Sid and we're waiting on our student.
I did just drop an email to Sid and Rudaba, because if we get either one of them, we'll have a quorum and be able to move forward with old business. But so right now, if you want to just go to number 5, item number 5, Marty.
Public comment. Okay. Do we have anyone?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Then our next item would be Dr. Ignetti.
My apologies for the loss of the window there. I hope I wasn't looking panicked for a moment. In any case, well, first of all, Marty, I know that you had to leapfrog over some of the earlier agenda items. I just wanted to say again, welcome to everyone who's here today, and certainly welcome to the College Council representatives for being here. It's a pleasure to provide a report, and I know that this has been an interesting semester, to say the least, and I want to provide a little bit of perspective right now where we sit, and look a little bit back at the fall, and a little bit where things stand with respect to right now, and thinking forward to the spring. So, as I mentioned, it's been 2 months ago that we first got together, or last got together, and at that point in time, we were just 1 month into the semester, and our fall restart plan that we developed over many months, make sure that I can hear you all, was just beginning to be put to the test. At that point in time, we had just done 3 weeks of pooled surveillance testing for COVID-19, and we'd sampled 1,500 individuals, and they were all negative. So looked like smooth start for the semester. Today marks the final week of in-person class portion of the semester. So our fall restart plan has been intensely tested at this point, and I'm happy to report that it is passing the test. It's enabling us to keep health, safety, and academic continuity at the forefront of all that's occurring on campus. We completed the mandatory fall departure COVID testing of students last Friday, occurred over 3 consecutive days. Students who tested negative have a 10-day window to depart campus, and students have been told that they're eligible to leave campus and return home. If students are able to continue their studies remotely, we have encouraged them to make arrangements to proceed home for the remainder of the fall semester. For a bit of perspective on COVID testing, and we've done a lot of it, we've conducted 10,643 samples over 16 testing days that span. If you visit the SUNY COVID tracker website, or look at our dashboard, you get a sense of the number of tests that have been conducted for the campus. And certainly the SUNY COVID tracker provides the daily details for what's been happening on campus. We have managed 2 distinct infection cycles. The first one began on October the 12th and ran until approximately October the 29th. And then the second infection cycle began on November the 5th, and it continues as of today. The management of these cycles has occurred, I'm going to use a lot of superlatives here, with a tremendous amount of care, attention, dedication, and incredible amount of hard work from our, we call it the INQ team, the Isolation and Quarantine team. That's led by Dr. Kathleen Camello, who's the director of the Health Center, Mike Carabella, who's the director of Emergency Management, and our UPD Police Chief, Pat Rasco. This tremendous amount of effort and sacrifice that has made the semester a success despite obstacles and COVID cases, and we owe a debt of gratitude to the entire team that's been working, in some cases, in the background to ensure that we're able to support any COVID case that occurs within our student population. As I reported back in September, our faculty, our staff, and administrators have worked incredibly hard over the summer to make the fall possible. And I can report that this work has been followed by even a heavier lift of making it happen. Faculty and staff have truly dug in deep, and I'm immensely proud of all who have worked so hard for our students. And these are students who benefit greatly from being here, and the safety for themselves and of their colleagues. Now, 1,000 or more hours were invested to make our restart plan possible, and even more is happening to make it happen. As members of the College Council, you can be assured that you are associated with an impressive and hardworking group of professionals, and I'm grateful to be here and very proud to be their colleague. I want to focus my remarks today on three areas: the fall, thus in light of COVID, some challenges we face ahead, and what the spring semester will look like. So as I mentioned, our first 7 weeks of the semester were COVID-free, and as we experienced the first positive cases, I was able to host a virtual town hall meeting to address questions and concerns from faculty and staff, students and parents. From that point forward, we've maintained daily updates with statistics and related details that are posted on our webpage, and that, as I've already mentioned, includes the COVID-19 dashboard for SUNY Plattsburgh. Our transparency has gained attention and appreciation. The Cardinal Pledge, which includes avoiding large gatherings or parties, wearing your face masks, social distancing, and seeking medical help when you're sick, has been a constant throughout. Isolation, quarantine, testing, and monitoring have required ongoing maneuvering and management. Our core team in this area has worked tirelessly, weekends and late nights, to ensure students are supported when they test positive or they've been identified for quarantine through contact tracing. I endeavor to visit the command center each day, and I am amazed at their ability to address constant needs and respond in real time to unexpected twists and turns as each positive case presents. Campus leadership meets multiple days each week to process all this information and think about other needs, and this direction flows through the divisions. Faculty have adapted classes in creative ways. Housing and student life areas have pushed forward as well. I would say that we are in their debt, and certainly we are in the debt of all the faculty as they've served the students' needs this semester. Even as we do so much right, there is certainly much more to do. Our students, as I've learned from conversations and visiting and walking across campus, our students are tired and they are disappointed as they watch this college experience pass by in a way they never imagined. And so I would say emphatically that our students continue to need our support and our continual adaptation to what's happening with respect to COVID on the campus. We look to keep this in front of our minds and strive to be even more care-focused this spring semester. And in fact, the spring planning is already well underway. I also want to report that the faculty approved a limited pass-fail option for a non-major class this semester. And so the students will have the option to choose a single class should they want a pass-fail option applied. And also the course withdrawal date for this fall has been extended to the end of the semester. On some not so, I'll say, positive news, after consultation with conference leadership, the presidents of the SUNYAC made the very difficult decision to cancel winter sports. In addition, the 5 SUNYAC core members who are also members of the Northeast Women's Hockey League, including SUNY Plattsburgh, are not competing in women's ice hockey during 2021. Winter sports impacted by the decision also include men's and women's basketball, men's ice hockey, and also indoor track and field. We've had some limited activities with athletics at times this semester, and we certainly hope for more in the spring. We were able to join with our food service provider, Chartwell's, and cut the ribbon on a new deli-style venue called the Kent Cafe at the lower level of Kent Hall, which sits right along the Saranac River Trail. This is a welcome addition to the campus dining options. We were also able to welcome a group of Clinton Community College staff to observe how pooled testing for COVID-19 is done on campus, and they use that information to start their own process at the college. They very much appreciated the assistance and began testing just 2 weeks later. I also want to highlight the visit of Dr. Kenneth Hardy to campus via Zoom on November the 2nd. Dr. Hardy is director of the Eichenberg Institute for Relationships in New York City, and he also presents workshops and provides consultations nationally and internationally on issues of diversity, multiculturalism, and cultural competency. Dr. Hardy is also professor of family therapy in the College of Nursing and Health Professions at Drexel University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Dr. Hardy spent the day with students, faculty, staff, and administration, helping us identify racial trauma within the SUNY Plattsburgh community. More than 200 campus members attended as part of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion's breathing room, creating a space to metabolize racial trauma. This was an important step for campus as we move forward with direct and targeted action plans to build a more equitable and just community. We are very grateful to him and the Plattsburgh College Foundation, which helped make this visit possible. So what are some of our challenges ahead? One of the largest challenges we face right now relates to the New York State budget. The continuing strain on New York's financial picture will likely translate to a reduction in direct state support to the college. This could also potentially impact TAP and Excelsior funding. Current estimates are for a minimum of 20% reduction in all state support. Accordingly, SUNY spending constraints implemented in April and the campus's hiring limitations must continue. Compared to what we expected for the 2019-2020 fiscal year, the college, when all the dust settled with respect to the fiscal year, only received 85% of direct state support, or approximately $1.6 million less than budgeted for 2019-2020. On the positive side of the college's ledger, we were able to expend $4.6 million less than what was budgeted in the state operating fund. Also, we did see a slight increase in fall 2020 enrollment, and that resulted in an estimated additional $500,000 more in tuition revenue. So overall, when everything is combined on the large spreadsheet, we have projected a $1.3 million surplus for this fiscal year that will need to be leveraged 100% to offset the projected deficits for next year. But of course, all of this is fluid and it remains a concern for our campus. Even so, we are working hard to recruit the next Cardinal class. Our student recruitment program is robust. We are now hosting virtual open houses as well as very limited, socially distant on-campus experiences. We're making efforts to boost the pool of inquiries through increased buys of names and convert these acceptances to enrollment. We are also advancing a program to encourage alumni referrals. In the midst of all these challenges, our work on the Middle States reaccreditation continues, with working groups gathering details and doing gap analysis. These groups are led by chairs and a Middle States campus leadership team. The templates are due to the committee next month, and this is all ahead of a planned site visit scheduled for 2022. Steps forward for our next college strategic plan are also underway, and I'm meeting with Provost Ann Herzog and faculty leaders as we cover this initial ground. Finally, I want to turn to the spring semester. We plan to start remotely and have no spring break and end the semester a week earlier than originally scheduled. This follows exactly the SUNY system guidance that was released after we developed and publicized our spring 21 schedule. Specifically, we will conduct on-campus classes in a more concentrated time frame for public health and safety concerns, as we did in the fall. As well, we will have increased pool surveillance testing for COVID-19 throughout the spring semester. Returning students will need to provide a negative test result to begin the spring semester, and our planning also accounts for isolation and quarantine requirements that may be needed for some students prior to the start of the semester. So some keynotes for next spring are, our classes, as I mentioned, will begin remotely on January the 25th. The first 2 weeks of the semester will be delivered remotely, fully online. This will again permit a phased return of our students to campus with better management of the transition to full density. And non-essential staff will also be permitted to work remotely during the first 2 weeks of the semester. The majority of returning residential students will be given scheduled time for their returns. Following public health guidelines, there will be no spring break. Because spring break will be eliminated, the final exam week will run from May 1st to May the 7th. And spring commencement is tentatively scheduled for May 8th. SUNY has advised all campuses that commencement exercises must be considered in accordance with guidance from the New York State Department of Health. Campuses have been explicitly told to begin their planning and messaging for virtual commencements and/or the possibility of safely distanced methods of recognition and degree conferral. Also, we will be celebrating our winter 2020 graduates on December the 12th at 10 a.m. online. I encourage you to watch via the website, and we will have nearly 300 graduates participating. And for the College Council members, you will receive an invitation from my office for you to be able to observe the ceremony. So this concludes my report to the College Council. and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time. But I do want to thank each of you for your service to the college and all you do to support student success. I'm truly honored to be your president, and I wish each and every one of you a restful Thanksgiving. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this afternoon. Marty, that's all I have right now.
Dr. Agnetti, this is Dan.
Hi, Dan.
So you're going to have the kids on campus for St. Patrick's Day next year. Yep.
That would be the case. So the goal is to try to figure out a way to cancel St. Patrick's Day.
Good luck.
I know it's yeah.
It's okay.
I'm aware.
I had a question for Doctor. I know that some larger universities don't have a graduation of the entire student body that's of the entire graduating class. They graduate the students on a school by school basis. So the engineering school and the nursing school, etc., they handle their graduations on that basis. Has there been any thought given to doing graduations on that level so that students could graduate in a formal ceremony and be able to do the meet the distancing requirements, etc., if they were to be graduating that way?
Well, Marty, actually we have a group of individuals on campus that in many ways think about graduation every week, and we've had conversations. In fact, as we thought about the winter situation, one of the options was, could we do this in smaller groups? And with the COVID testing and all the exit work that had to be done just prior to the end of the semester with the in-person place, it wasn't possible. But that may be a little bit different for next semester. We were mandated to test every student prior to them leaving campus. I don't know if that's going to be the same mandate for next semester or not. And if it is, that's a logistical issue, because if you're testing and getting negatives, you can't send people home and then bring them back, because then we'll have to, where this gets into that loop of just continuing to have to test everybody. But I think what you're getting at is there a way to really create small pods of graduating classes? So could we do something in SBE, or could we do something in arts and sciences? And rest assured that will be evaluated. And again, if we're in a situation where there's now a vaccine and it's been widely distributed, and the Department of Health says, you know what, you can go for larger groups, rest assured we will certainly pursue those opportunities. So my preference is to do it I'll say the way we've done it in the past versus virtual and Zoom.
Okay.
And Doctor, this is Dan again. I see that Josie's on the Zoom too. First of all, don't tell Albany about the surplus, but how does that work in the SUNY system? You get to keep that surplus, if you will, or is that just accounting and it goes to Albany?
No, it's on our books. It's on our books.
Okay.
So each individual campus, has different funding sources, and we hold the reserves or carry forward, hopefully, surpluses and no deficits on the campus's books. I mean, SUNY can see them, and as SUNY does their consolidated financial statements, everybody is together with all of that. But I think it's important to note and just to restate, those are projections based off of the information that we had at the time, which was about a month and a half ago or so. And, we still really don't know what the state of New York is going to do. We have not received any state funding yet. And that amount is predicated on receiving at least 70% of our annual estimated state support. And at this point, we haven't received any.
Got it. Well, before this meeting is done, that Doctor went over that very quickly, but that's no small accomplishment. Congratulations to everybody to be able to do that in this time, to have an operating surplus. That's pretty impressive.
I agree. I mean, when this all happened and we kind of shut down and we had to send students away in April, and the state of New York, implemented very stringent salary freeze and hiring freeze and spending constraints. It was all about having the state of New York having enough cash to pay for everything COVID related. And the campus has been just fabulous. I mean, I couldn't, say enough positive words about the partnership across the entire campus, understanding the situation of the state and then understanding the situation of the campus. Spending restrictions. We're not buying a lot of things. We're not spending our money like we normally do. It's just really restrictive, and everybody's partnering. And so that's also going to be helping the campus as we get out of this.
Great. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for asking.
And Dan, if I can just add to something that Josie, I think could have actually gone into greater depth, because she knows much more about this than I do. But the shortfall that we received from the state for 1920 is about $1.6 million. We had to absorb that on our campus. So our surplus would have been much larger if we'd received that full amount. And I think, Josie, if you can just remind me, we were running at a $4 million plus surplus at one point, correct?
An 8 million.
Oh,
So yeah, we had gotten, we were getting pretty good at having a surplus built up based off of the enrollments that we had. But the 1.3 million that President Agnelli talked about projected at the end of this year is assuming all our reserves are used, and that's what we are left with. So that's a net surplus at the end of the year. And
okay.
the real reason that happens is some of it is just accounting. We did get last year's state funding. We actually had to book it in this fiscal year. So we didn't receive all of last year's state funding, as President just indicated. But what we did receive, we received it in this fiscal year. So last year looked awful. We ended up in a deficit in an accounting perspective. And then this year, we got more state money, even though we're still waiting for this year's money.
Sounds like they have a plan.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think we're all waiting to see what New York State's plan is going to be. For all intents and purposes, they're paying their bills at about 80 cents to every dollar. So we'll see what that translates to us.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Dr. Agnelli, this is Sal Graven. You spoke about gearing up for recruitment for next year. I've been on this college council a long time, and when it comes to recruitment, one thing that was always brought up is that more doesn't necessarily mean better, right? So more students headcount doesn't necessarily translate into larger revenues for room and board, tuition, etc. So with that in mind, what is the plan as far as, is there a desire perhaps, or a need to expand enrollment to help backfill some deficit? One, and second, I would imagine COVID plays a role in the headcounts within the on-campus facilities. So what are those sort of choke points that COVID is presenting, and what are and how do we overcome them?
So Sal, I'm happy to answer your question. I think you've asked two really important things simultaneously, and I think I've got both Josie and Lizzie Wahab who can help with the answer in this. So let's address the first issue in terms of what's the appropriate level of enrollment. And as we've developed the enrollment model for next year, it's actually a lower number than we had actually seen enrolled in prior years. So we've actually recalibrated our enrollment to reflect where things stand in terms of what we anticipate with the impacts that COVID's having. what we're being aggressive with respect to our recruitment and the admissions funnel that we're developing, we want to meet those targets. It's critical to meet the budget. And what Josie had mentioned is that with the budget that's being derived for 21, 22 is based on those enrollment targets, even though they're a little bit less than where we were, but we still need to make them to at least make sure the budget doesn't get even more challenging. So does that help? And I don't know if Lizzie or Josie need to.
And this is Lizzie. Dr. Graven, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to optimize enrollment. And we are also trying to make sure that we serve our continuing students really well so they're coming back and we are not losing students to attrition. Now with COVID, with the restriction in travel, with the restriction in large group visits, that we're not being able to show off North Country and the campus as we normally would. So that's definitely a detrimental fact, but we're still trying to invite small group students from far away in a very tailored manner to be able to show them on a one-on-one basis what it feels like to be at Plattsburgh. So a lot of intense work on a smaller population and a lot of work on retention to make sure we're being able to serve the students we have well, so they're able to come back and continue with us.
Yeah, and so Sal, the second part of your question was the fluctuating enrollments impacting the financial stream here. And I'll just say that there's a bifurcation of funding. Tuition revenue stream goes in one direction. Housing and dining goes in a different direction. And so if we were 100% remote, and all our students were enrolled, let's say we had a head count of 5,000, we would collect tuition for that. But there'd be nobody living in the residence halls. And so I think Josie might be able to provide a little perspective of the impact that if we had no residential students, what that would have.
Well, that would be devastating on our residential hall program, as well as for our college auxiliary services, and then the countless jobs that are created from our food vendor, Chartwell's, right? If there were no students here, we wouldn't need food service. We wouldn't need a shuttle service. So it would be really problematic. Our residence halls, from a financial perspective, even though we had to refund half of the spring residential hall rates when we went remote and we sent everybody home, you know, that was quite significant. It was about $4.3 million or so that was refunded. We were able to utilize a couple million of the CARES grant, institutional funding, to help return that funding into the residence hall program. And then SUNY did some really creative financing to support the residential hall programs through this COVID-19 problem that we're all having, to actually borrow for this year and next year's debt service payment for all residential hall programs within the SUNY system. And so what it really is delaying our current year and next year's debt payment, and delaying it for the next 30 years, right down the road, which is a blessing and a curse at some point. But that really helps our residential hall program stay active. And, you know, we had over 1,600 students living in our residence halls, you know, at the peak of the term. And, you know, while our budgeted amount was closer to the 2,100, having 16 is really extremely, extremely beneficial. And many of the colleges are not in the same position as we are from a financial perspective on our support services. So yeah, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of a view. The biggest impact would have been, from my perspective, college auxiliary services, our auxiliary would have had significant problems in staying afloat, and then the numerous jobs from Chartwell's in our region would have had so many more people laid off.
Thank you.
So thanks for the question, Sal.
Marty, Sid has now joined us, and if we want to go back to the start of the agenda, we can get that, the approvals that we need done while we have a quorum.
And Marty, you're still on mute.
There. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so first order of business will be the approval of the agenda. Okay, so could I have a motion that we approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Heidi. And that second, was that Sid?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion, we have a second on that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion carries. Next item would be the approval of the meetings of the April 13th meeting. Do that set of minutes first. Okay,
I'll move.
okay, we have a motion from
Second?
Garrett, and we have a second. That was Dan, I assume?
Yep.
Okay. And any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstained? Carried. Okay. Next item would be the minutes of the September 18th meeting. Have a motion for the approval of those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Heidi, and a second by Sid Garrett. Okay. All those in favor indicate by aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, I think that covers those items. I thank you very much. Now, we're going to pick up on the divisional reports. Dr. Cromwell?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to provide you with a report. I will be brief, as Dr. Nyati was able to speak to some of the things that we were doing, but I want to talk to you about the three imperatives that I've been focusing on since I've been here. So I think it's maybe 15 months now. And my report today would focus on the three imperatives or my three mandates. One, education, which is focused around enhancing the campus climate, providing skills and competencies to faculty, staff, and students. Around the business case for diversity, which is focused on recruitment and retention of faculty and staff, and the persistence of students, specifically students that fall into multicultural categories, such as our Atlanta students, our LGBTQ students, our international students. And the third mandate is around economic, which really focuses on raising funds so that we can carry out some of the other mandates. So in terms of educational, there are 5 things that I want to speak about, which my division was able to work on with a number of people on campus. The first one, in early this semester, we launched an All Set campaign. And All Set, the acronym SET stands for SET, student-centered, equity-minded, and trauma-informed. And the idea is that we wanted to get the campus thinking about how we can do all our work and how we can operate in a way that's student-centered, equity-minded, and trauma-informed. And that when we did that, it meant that we were moving towards being an inclusive campus. So we launched that at the beginning of the semester. Following the All Set campaign, I want to say that one of the highlights of my time at Plattsburgh has been having the cabinet and the deans, which we call our executive council, engaged in a critical cultural consciousness series. So beginning in August and ending this coming December, well, at least that's this semester, we'll be continuing in January and ending in April. The executive council, as I said, which is the cabinet and the deans, met the first Friday of every month for almost 2 hours to engage in some critical work that would help us to be equity literate. And we looked at topics such as anti-Black sentiments, we looked at unconscious bias, we talked about being unoppressive leaders, and we really got into very deep conversations. And as I said to them, we were doing in almost 2 hours what people spent almost 2 days to do. But I was encouraged that we were digging in so that we can get to some level of equity literacy. The third thing around the educational imperative is that this semester we updated our bias response team protocol, which is now called DIRECT. And that DIRECT acronym stands for the Diversity Incident, Response, and Education Communication Team. And one of the main things we did with that, the protocol this semester, is that we changed the form to a QR code so that our students will have more easy access to the reporting form. The fourth thing that I want to talk about related to the education imperative is that we conducted 3 comprehensive campus climate surveys. They were all done between January and completed in March. And we used a HERI, which is the Higher Ed Research Institute instrument, and that comes out of the University of California. And the results from that will be disseminated in January, this coming January. So stay tuned because we'll be sharing some of the results from those 3 surveys. Related to those surveys, we formed a diversity council this June. So we have a 21-member diversity council because one of the things I like to say is that this work is not my work. This work has to be centralized through my office, but then decentralized among a number of people. And the Diversity Council is called the President's Inclusive Excellence Council. And they're really helping me to carry out this work in a way that's student-centered, that's equity-minded, and trauma-informed. So President Nyeti talked about Kenneth Hardy coming to campus on Black Solidarity Day. The President's Inclusive Excellence Council members were instrumental in helping me to formulate that day and to work to get him here on campus. So moving away from the educational imperative, I want to talk a little bit about that business case for diversity and some of the things we did related to that. So most of y'all would remember that in August, during the summer, we had a heightened time of national injustice in our national climate and our local climate as well. One of the things we did is that we hosted a number of affinity groups with racial identity groups so that they can find ways to talk about what was happening. We continued this work when we came back in the fall with an initiative called BRAVE. And BRAVE stands for Brave, Resilient, and Amplified Voices for Equity-Mindedness. And the idea was that we needed to invite people in the community to have conversations that we don't usually have, that we sort of percolate in our heads, but that we can sit together in brave spaces where we can amplify our voices and have these conversations. And some of these conversations helped to take us through what could have been a very difficult time during the election. So these brave spaces will be continued and continuing to have us have these sustainable dialogues, not just this semester, but continuing on to the spring semester. Dr. Anyadi talked a little bit about Ken Hardy. That was one of the things we did related to the business case. So I won't spend too much time on that. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, which I know that my colleague Ann Hansen would touch on some more, is that economic case, because this work cannot be done without human, but specifically economic capital. And I want to say that I continue to have tremendous support from the Institutional Advancement Division and from the Plattsburgh Foundation to continue doing this work. One of the things that we started just minimally this semester during homecoming was that we had an affinity group for the alumni community. What we'd like to do in the future is to have more affinity groups at homecoming and during different times so that we can continue to engage with some of our alumni around different affinity groups, both LGBTQ, from the Alana groups, and so on. So that's more or less what happened in my division this semester, and I'd love to hear your questions or your suggestions.
Hi, Dr. Cromwell. Sal Graven again. I would just like to say that at my agency, I work for a public authority of the state, and we are also engaging in this work, and it is so powerful. It is so positive, and it's so eye-opening that it really, to me, it's empowering to me, because I thought I worked with some great people, but now I truly can appreciate my colleagues a lot better, and I think a lot more in depth than perhaps I might have sort of evaluated or thought of them sort of in the past. So I commend you, and I, as a member of this council, back this work 100%. I think this campus has sort of historically, I'm sure you've been briefed, has had a long run of sort of racial injustice and incidents of that. And we've been dealing with it as a campus, as a community, for quite some time. Not to say, however, we've been dealing with it effectively, or that past efforts weren't effective. But what it is to say is that I think we are now both better prepared and better equipped to tackle instances in the future with your leadership. So thank you for being here, and thank you for this work.
And I appreciate that comment. And I think I want to take the opportunity to invite the College Council to be a part of this work as well. Because when we talk about inclusive excellence, we think about all the constituents that are related to doing the work of the college. So as we talk about this, I think I was really encouraged that the cabinet and the deans, the executive council, is really leaning in to do the work in a way that's doing hard and difficult and deep work. And I would love to encourage you to be a part of our critical consciousness series when you're able. So if you can lead that charge, and I know you opened the door, so I just stepped right in. I would appreciate that.
Please do send me a note. I would love to support if schedule is able to, but we'll look to make time, certainly.
Yeah, I agree with Sal. I think that would be really important for us to, engage in some of these conversations. And I'm interested to see the results of the campus climate surveys, because, ultimately you're hoping that the students are seeing the positive impact of all of these different initiatives and really feel like finally maybe some progress is being made where they were so frustrated for such a long time. So, it's hopefully, they're, seeing the benefits of all of this, and that'll come through in those surveys.
And what I want to see, and I want to be really transparent about this, is that our surveys are also going to show our good, our bad, and our ugly. And I think for us to get to point B, we have to be able to stand at point A and really acknowledge who we are, where we are before we get to that point. So I just wanted to put that out there. But thank you for saying that, Heidi.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's baby steps. You just have to, take the good with the bad. So.
Any other comments? Okay. I would like to also extend my willingness to participate in those meetings. I noticed you mentioned that the first Fridays is when you meet, and I would make myself available if I were extended such an invitation. Okay.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you. That means a lot.
Okay. Okay. Thank you again. And I think Josie Lazzarelle is up next.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for sharing some of your kind of gray afternoon with us today. As I look out over Lake Champlain and the Saranac, this view I feel like that's all I've been doing is here's the Zoom and here's the view. So thanks again for taking your time and giving me a few minutes to chat with you. So I'm going to start off with the Administration and Finance Fall 2020 Service Awards. So the Admin and Finance Service Awards were kicked off last summer, so summer 2019, with awards being presented at a divisional summer picnic. Well, clearly due to COVID-19 and everything it brought, we couldn't have our summer picnic for the division, and it was quite sad. There were even people who were trying to figure out how we could do this, remotely and virtually, but we were so busy trying to help prepare the campus in getting ready to invite our students to come back that it was just canceled. But it was really important to me and to the division leadership team that we didn't cancel our service award recipients. Again, this was only the second year that we brought this back into the division. So we held a virtual divisional meeting last Friday and presented awards to the service award recipients. And so these recipients are nominated either from somebody across the campus or within the division. And for the most part, it was almost unanimous this year for the winners. And so I just wanted to share our excellence in classified service. So these are for CSEA employees. Went to Christopher Akey, who's a cleaner. He had wonderful nominations from the people whose areas he supports. The excellence in unclassified service went to Jenna Beauregard, who's our purchasing and contracts director. And again, very much almost a unanimous nomination, multiples. And what's of course very perfect for the past 8 months was our Excellence in Team Award this year went to the entire janitorial services department. They just had gone above and beyond in helping make sure that everything was cleaned and disinfected, and blue tape was on every door and a variety of things. So it was hard to do it virtually, but it was really important. And so they did get certificates, and their names are going to be on plaques here on the 9th floor. And then because this year was so crazy, I did have 3 special commendations for leadership during our COVID-19 pandemic. And so those went out to Sarah Rael, who is the Director of Human Resources, The level of effort and the professionalism that she had built around our remote work program, supporting all of our employees, and then in regards to accommodations for either COVID or K through 12 school remote challenges, was just phenomenal. And then Sean Darmany, our AVP for Administration and Finance, he's reviewed every single purchase order since I guess since June, because I looked at every single purchase order from April through May. And he's done it with aplomb and really has ensured that we've had test kits and surveillance pool kits and that they've been shipped out, and just really wonderful above and beyond. And then, of course, Bill Cercelli, our Director of Facilities. He is still hearing his name in his sleep because we keep going around, Bill, 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 Bill. How many students can we have in this classroom? Bill, how many can we now today? Bill, are you sure? Are you really sure? And so it was really important to just take a moment. And even though it was virtually, I had about 12 people and the recipients in the Hermes conference room, under the 10, just under the 10. So it was good. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to share that. Really proud of what the division has done. I do have a couple of other just business related items. I just wanted to let the College Council know that effective spring 2021, the spring semester that's coming up, the campus is only going to be offering a single parking fee to our students at the rate of $76 per term, rather than in the past, we've had a part-time rate and we've had a full-time rate. And the complexities with the part-time and the full-time, especially when we're expanding remote classes or non-remote classes or hybrid and a variety of this. And there really was a small number of students who were getting the part-time student parking rate. So it's going to facilitate student billing and make things a lot easier with just one parking rate for the term for the students. And then just a quick little update on our construction projects. As I'm sure you can imagine, the pandemic and really more importantly, the state restrictions on spending have really slowed our progress on capital projects. But we do still have a couple of things that we have completed. As the president has just indicated, we did finish the Kent Hall construction project, which was great. And I hope that if you hadn't had a chance, since it wasn't open this whole term, maybe next term towards the end when it gets a little bit more springtime, maybe we can have you all come to Kent Cafe for lunch. It is quite a beautiful environment. But the Memorial Hall project that you've heard me talk about, the complete renovation of that building, is proceeding, and it's proceeding on time and on target. So even with the challenges of social distancing, et cetera. So phase one is primarily in the pool demolition area and then the rebuilding of that area. And that phase one is scheduled to finish around October of next year. And then we'll just transition directly into hopefully phase two, which at this point, the state is still fully funding phase one and phase two of the Memorial Hall project. So those are great. Those are still on target. And that's all I have for you today. Are there any questions?
Nope.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Next up is, well, it was supposed to be Ann Hansen, but I guess Ann's not able to be with us. And Diane Merkel is.
I'm actually here, Marty.
Oh, you are? You snuck in.
I've been here all along. I must be on the next screen over in your Zoom slideshow.
Marty, it was Dr. Herzog, Ann Herzog, that could not be.
Oh, Ann Herzog. Okay, excuse me.
Yeah, it's very confusing now. We have two Anns, both spelled with an E, and our last name initial is H. So I basically jump whenever I hear the name Ann, whether it's not directed or not. So good afternoon, everyone. And while I don't have a view of the Saranac, I can see the flag out here on Hawkins Hall lawn and the flags over at the Canadian Center for the Study of Canada and Olive Basin Flint. So we all have some views that inspire us throughout the day, even though we're somewhat isolated from one another. I wanted to just touch on a couple things that are going on in advancement that are pretty exciting. One is our diversity, equity, and inclusion campaign, which Dr. Cromwell mentioned earlier. And I'm just so proud of the work that Paula Bachman in our annual giving area, Aubrey Brissett in our communications area, and Dave Gregoire partnering with me to put together this campaign. It's really taken such beautiful shape. Basically, we have 9 specific, I call them buckets, okay? Not a very classy name, but 9 categories. And 4 of them specifically relate to scholarship support to students. And they cover everything from students of color to women to LGBTQ students to low-income first-gen students. So when alumni land on our diversity, equity, inclusion campaign page, they're going to see a scholarship button for each one of those 4 categories. They're also going to see EOP, which has probably 5 or 6 different funds that directly support EOP as well as scholarship for that specific group of students. We have a social justice category, which includes the Douglas Scott Scholarship as well as a lecture series connected to the Webb Endowment. We have Black Poetry Day. We have Jewish Studies and Holocaust Studies. We have diversity, equity, inclusion programming, all that programming that Dr. Cromwell was talking about earlier. So those are the 9 categories. And the whole idea here is that we're offering a lot of diversity of choice for people to become engaged in supporting this campaign. There's a $50,000 matching gift to inspire people to give. We have a $25,000 match on top of that to inspire people to give specifically to the SCOP, Social Justice Scholarship. And you know, the other thing that I think is very powerful, 2 other things that are powerful about this campaign. One is the people that it honors. So I've mentioned Doug Scop a few times already. We're honoring Kyla Relaford, Tom Curl, who has a scholarship in his name that specifically supports Asian students. We have a scholarship in the name of Mal Lavery, who many of you may recall as our first director for alumni relations. We have a new scholarship in memory of Becky Casper, who many people on this call remember very fondly. So there's a great opportunity here to not only make a gift that really impacts the college's movement forward, but also to honor people that are a big part of our history and what's made this place special. The other point of pride on this campaign is that with 21 funds already existing within the College Foundation that specifically support DEI, we have a total of endowment that's approaching the $1 million mark. So I think that's really definitely something we can put out there as we've got a long way to go. You know, there's never enough. And those endowed funds only spin out a certain amount of income on an annual basis. But the fact that we do have 21 funds to start with and close to $1 million in assets dedicated to this is a good start. The other thing that I wanted to just touch on today, which also kind of hits on the nerve a little bit of the history of the college. Carrie Chapin Levine has been working over in the alumni area on a new project called Keeping the Flame. And this specifically connects to the writing that Dr. Tom Moran has done over the years. And any of you who've attended dedication ceremonies or memorials or ceremony honoring a new SUNY distinguished professor, you know that quite often over the years, over a long period of time, Dr. Moran was the one that would write the keynote address and present it. And so he's touched on the lives of a lot of important icons over the years. And so we decided that it'd be a really great idea to offer up to our alumni and friends and faculty and staff access to be able to check out some of these reflections that Tom wrote over the years. And the first group that we're rolling out will include people like Doc Redkay, Cheryl Hogel, Bill Laundrie, Nancy Church. So that's just a few of the group that's going to appear in the first installment. And the idea is that alumni will get notified when we're putting out a new story or two. They can respond and share their own memories if they like. And it's all kind of coming under the name of keeping the flame, you know, the flame that burns here at SUNY Plattsburgh, part of our history, our identity, our commitment to students and supporting students, recognizing that and honoring it and talking about it and keeping it alive. So those are the two programs I wanted to highlight today. Any questions?
She's the lady in charge of the money and nobody's got any questions.
Well, Ian, this is Dan. How are you?
Very good.
Well, with the market doing what it's been doing, all that kind of stuff, how big is our endowment gotten to? What's the total these days?
We're hovering around 22, 23. So it's been a roller coaster ride.
That's a high water mark though, isn't it? That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, we can't seem to get over 23, but you know, that's all up. That's all assets.
That's great. Congratulations.
I'm a long way over the past decade or so.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, with only about 4.5% spent, you know, the endowment would be pretty significant in order to churn out a meaningful distribution. But having said that, we're building for the future. This is perpetual funding that will be provided to the college year in, year out, forevermore. So long after this Zoom call's done.
That was very politically correct. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, and now I will call on Dr. Ann Herzog, that she's not here. And I think Diane Merkel is making a report in her stead.
Thank you, Marty. Yes, good afternoon. Unfortunately, Dr. Herzog is not able to be with us today, but I am here on her behalf. Three things I'd like to report on. The first, the School of Education, Health and Human Services successfully completed site visits, both remotely, from the Council on Academic Accreditation for our Graduate Communication Sciences and Disorders program, and the Commission on Social Work Education for our social work program. We will receive final word on the results in February or March. The School of Business and Economics has had 2 students offered competitive IBM co-op offers. Faculty member Dr. Laurent Josine has been appointed Vice President of the Institute for Global Business Research, and Dean Rowena Ortiz-Walters has been selected to participate in the SUNY Hispanic Leadership Institute for spring semester 2021. The School of Arts and Sciences Criminal Justice faculty member, Dr. Bria Willingham, has been invited to participate in a December TEDx event hosted by Arcadia University entitled 2020 Vision. The title of Dr. Willingham's talk is Blinded by My Black Skin, the Hyper-Invisibility of Black Women. And I'm also pleased to announce that Dr. Denise Simard has been named Dean of Education, Health and Human Services. She has been serving nearly 4 years as the interim dean.
That's my report. Questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Diane. And Lizzie Wahab.
Thank you, Marty. I apologize for being, sorry, I apologize for being off screen. I have a bout of asthma and I didn't want to break into coughing in front of everybody. So please forgive me. I wanted to bring some good news from our department. My division is the Division of Enrollment and Student Success. So I directly manage student recruitment, student retention, as well as the INQ team and residence life and community living. We started this year with great excitement of, having a group of students join us that was a higher number than we expected. So that was a real boost to the morale of all the people who worked tirelessly through the summer, trying to manage COVID and trying to keep the morale up and the students excited. And after we brought them in, we worked very closely with them to be able to really elevate the virtual aspect of our operation. And as you know, with virtual, at first it did well, and then people got Zoom tired, and as classes, they got more and more into their classes and their activities, that level of excitement on virtual also dropped. So we tried from student services to be able to have small group meetings, but we were able to do that as long as our cases were low. But once the cases started ticking up, that also had to be paused. So this has been a semester of great anxiety for all of our students, our EOP students that joined us from far away, our special admit students that really thrive on a face-to-face care kind of engagement as opposed to virtual, and our international students. During the pandemic, many of our students saw wars in their home countries. So we tried from here to really connect them with their faculty so they had people to speak to. So we were also trying to make sure that they were able to connect with their family when Skype was down or WhatsApp was down. So a lot of things happened for us to make sure that our students we were able to alleviate some of the anxieties that all the lockdown and the pandemic caused. We did some of it well, and some of it, there was a steep learning curve. The admissions office, recruitment office is also working with a new formula of decision making. So a lot of students were not able to take part in SATs and ACTs worldwide due to the pandemic lockdown. So SUNY has announced that all SUNY schools are going to be test optional, which means we have to now evaluate our incoming students on a different scale than we normally evaluated them with, which is in a way good because we're able to look at them more holistically in absence of an SAT math or an SAT English. We're able to look at what they did throughout the high school. We're able to look at what they're doing co-curricular. How did COVID affect them, what they were able to do to mitigate some of this. So it gives us an opportunity to look at a student file holistically, and we're getting to evaluate all our students in that method. So this, we think, is going to increase access, but in admissions, we're careful that we are being able to bring in the quality of students that Plattsburgh expects and Plattsburgh is ready for. So there's a lot of individual attentions being given to all these students in absence of a standardized formula that we used in the past. So admissions is really working very hard on that, and trying to maintain the access of coming and visiting our institution in small groups and scheduled times. We're also looking at how we use financial aid to help our students decide if Plattsburgh is going to be the school of their choice and their destination institution. So the financial aid team, along with my team, they meet pretty regularly to discuss how our funds affect the student decision in this process. And Plattsburgh is very generous for those students who qualify for financial aid, but we're trying to expand financial aid to groups that we have not looked at in the past because we had those criteria of SATs and ACTs, and now we're going holistic. So we're able to open up the access. Again, keeping the theme alive that we need to bring in students that really do well here, as opposed to just meet a numerical threshold. So in residence life, we worked with 1,600 plus students. Again, with safety being the utmost concern, we really had to get them used to the idea of being tested, quarantining, isolation. In the beginning, we had some quarantine runners. We had to get that message to them. This is for your safety. And as we did this, we got better at it, and the college got better at it. The whole INQ team works with divisions across the campus to make sure that our INQ process works for the students. And we understand that it's really difficult for young students to be alone for 14 days, without any face-to-face engagement. And the INQ team has really worked hard to make sure that their buddies, their quarantine buddies, each one of us in leadership have quarantine buddies. We check in with them, we call them, we send care packages to them, trying to do everything possible to make sure that they're taken care of. Even then, we get irate parents. This weekend, we had like 12 irate parents very upset that their children are on quarantine. But we talk to the parents one-on-one, and we usually resolve any issues. This has been a semester of really relying on our colleagues. My team has relied heavily on not only Vice President LaRoche's team, but also Dr. Ann Hansen's team and Dr. Cromwell's team. We are using what Michelle Cromwell brings to us in terms of equity and trying to elevate our work through that lens of equity. We're reaching out to Ann Hansen to really help our students with that financial need, the emergency needs that come through, and very quickly mitigate some of those needs so that they can continue registering, continue being students. Vice President Josie's team has helped every step of the way to make sure not only that we're quarantining and isolating these students, but that we're taking care of them within those boundaries in the highest manner possible. So again, this has been a tremendously depend on your colleague semester just to get through. And I'm really happy to report that with Alex's direction and help, we're very close to the 20th, and we have kept a vibrant environment alive for SUNY Plattsburgh. I think it's so important for us to be able to do that so students who need to be here can be here safely and do well. So I wanted to just thank all the vice presidents here and the president and all of you for helping me manage this exceptional team that has gone over and beyond whatever their job description is to make sure that our 1,639 students stay here safely and can progress through their academics well. I've also worked very closely with our provost in terms of getting students through any situations they may have had academically. It's a work in progress, but the provost office has really stepped up in helping our students mitigate problems that they've had academically throughout the semester. It's been an anxious semester for many of our students, especially our diverse students, our international students, breathed a huge sigh of relief right after the election because they were so worried that their visas, their duration of study visas would not be renewed. And now they feel like they're in a better place where they'll be able to continue. So a tough semester that kind of sort of turned out pretty well if you look at it at the, at a 30,000 feet level. But we're really excited that we've been able to give the students the support and elevate that excellence to the level that we have because we were together and because we worked as a great team. And I thank you for all your contribution and your help in making Plattsburgh as successful as it was this semester. Right, if there's no
Thank you
question.
very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Okay. Next up is the chair's report, and I really don't have a report to give at this time, so I'm going to skip over that. And I do not, is Rudaba here?
She is not.
No. Okay. I didn't think she was, but I didn't know if she'd come in. Okay. Now, on campus governance is Dr. Sandra Rezick there.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful.
Hi, everyone. I was looking over the minutes from the last meeting and realized that the same things that I was thinking about at the last meeting are pretty much the same things that are still on my mind, but I do want to update you a bit. First, really kind of the state of faculty right now. Like students, faculty are tired. It's been a challenging semester. I mean, it's a challenging semester for everybody, obviously, not just in higher education. But for faculty, we're trying to balance the often new teaching modalities, sometimes changing modalities. Faculty who may have started face-to-face and then have to quarantine, they go online. So those sorts of changing modalities, or even if your class is still in normal session, you may have some of your students who decide they don't want to be on campus, they need to go home. All of those sorts of things are challenging, and even just creating web courses or teaching via Zoom if you've never done those things before. So we're balancing the course modality with the flexibility that we need to be able to provide to our students to help them with the issues that they're facing, of the uncertainty of what's happening in their lives, the technological issues that they might be having, all of those sorts of things. And also still trying to maintain rigor in our classes, because we do need to be moving forward with teaching the skills, with helping the students gain the knowledge that they should be gaining in their classes. So it's obviously been tough. We're moving forward through this. I'm certainly seeing colleagues come up with creative ways to do things. It's tough in part because, as I've heard colleagues say, we're often not able to do right now the things that many of us got into teaching, got into these jobs, and particularly came to a campus like Plattsburgh to do. And that is to work really directly with students, to work with them one-on-one, to get to know them, to involve them in our projects. And it's not that we're not doing any of that, but obviously it's a lot harder. You can't do it to the same level that you do when we have all of our students here face-to-face in our classes. And it's also much more difficult to keep finding the time to advance our research. So it's been a tough semester, but faculty are really seem to be rallying, seem to be really working to try to do their best, just as I'm seeing students trying to do their best given the circumstances. I want to bring up, as been brought up before, the Middle States accreditation. As you know, I'm one of the co-chairs of the self-study, and I've been impressed by the work that the working groups have been doing this semester. The members of these working groups all signed on before the pandemic, and almost all of them have continued, and it's a lot of people. And those that haven't been able to continue, largely, and there's only a few, it's largely because of personal issues, things like that that have come up. And this was a semester that the working groups had to do most of their work. So each working group is assigned to one, or in one case, 2 standards, and there's a whole bunch of criteria that they have to look at within that standard. And they're gathering evidence, they're looking up, finding reports, finding policies, talking to people on campus to provide evidence that we are meeting each of these criteria. They are gathering all that information together, they're summarizing their findings. So it's been a lot of work for these working groups to do this semester, and they're at various stages of completion, but most of them will be done within the next month, and we'll be ready to move on to the next stage. So that's been the focus this semester on Middle States, is those working groups gathering their evidence, the steering committee coming together to talk about where we're at with things, the problems that we're facing. We'll be moving into then over the winter, the executive leadership group will be doing a lot more of reviewing all of the evidence that's submitted. The steering committee will also be doing, the largest steering committee will be doing some of that. And then next semester, we'll move into starting to draft the various chapters of the report. We're still quite a ways out from the actual accreditation visit, but we're on target with where we expect it to be with the work. And that, again, to me, that's incredible, given everything that's going on, that the faculty and staff who signed on to work on these working groups really are doing a lot of work in the middle of everything else that they're trying to do. The third thing that I will mention is the SUNY University Faculty Senate. We had the first real plenary in October, so we would have had one in April, and that was greatly condensed down to just a few hours. We're trying to get back to normal, so we had a 3-day plenary in October. It was still via Zoom, so it's challenging to sit, as you all know from sitting in Zoom meetings, it's challenging to sit there for that length of time, but we got a lot done. We, as usual, we heard from and had a chance to interact with the chancellor, the SUNY chancellor, with the provost, with the chair of the board of trustees. We also listened to and learned from some panels of speakers on academic freedom. There is a panel on program deactivations and discontinuances, looking at it from the perspective of what faculty senate's roles are, what the union's role is, what SUNY system's role is. So lots of good information, lots of chances to talk to SUNY leadership. We also passed some resolutions that I just want to briefly mention. There was some follow-up on 2 of the resolutions that I had mentioned before, that over the summer, the executive committee of the University Faculty Senate had passed a statement and a resolution expressing concerns about the appointment of a chancellor. Again, it's the process, not the person, but concerns about the fact that it wasn't a search. And so we finished that up by getting the endorsement of the full faculty senate for both of those. There was also a resolution passed on racial equity and social justice curriculum, which is intended to remind faculty, or remind the local campuses, to continue to work on implementing or expanding on, which most campuses should have some existing curriculum dealing with racial equity and social justice. And this was just asking campuses to always continue to work on that. And the last resolution was about the importance of maintaining effective shared governance practices during times of crisis. So this asked the chancellor to reinforce to campus presidents that it's important that we still keep those structures in place, that we still make sure that the various campus governance groups are working with the presidents to make decisions, to provide input. And also this resolution provided some suggestions to the campus governance leaders on the local campuses to make sure that we all have the bylaws, the processes in place that allow us to be able to react quickly to things so that say the executive committees on local faculty senates can meet during the summer, can make decisions in the absence of full faculty meetings, or that there is a way to vote in place when you're doing remote meetings, or even that remote meetings are allowed in your bylaws. So that resolution just provided some suggestions to campuses. And I guess that's my report.
Do you have any questions?
I have a question. Was the selection of the chancellor, is that the way it's typically done and you're looking for a change going forward, or was this was different?
This was highly unusual. Typically there is a search that involves a very large search committee of people from various types of campuses, administrators, faculty, staff, and that works with a search firm to bring in candidates. You know, it's typically a long process. And this year, for the first time, the College Council simply appointed a chancellor. And so that was the concern, is that it bypassed all of the normal feedback that went into the process. There were no voices from faculty, from administrators, from anyone on the local campuses. It was strictly the College Council that simply appointed the new chancellor.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that report. Whoops.
And my cat chose that moment to stand up.
Okay. And my cat is begging to go out. I've got to take care of that. All right. And next up, I guess we have Gary Kroll, if he's there.
Yeah, I'm here, Marty. Can everyone here get a thumbs up? Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being here and letting me be a part of your conversations. I'll be very brief. I'm sorry, first of all, for missing the September meeting. If I was here, I would have been happy to report that at the end of the spring semester, the Faculty Senate voted with a very, very high majority in favor of the Cardinal Core curriculum. I've been talking about this for years. It's passed, it's approved, and we're moving forward with implementation. So that was a long haul, and GE votes are really, really difficult to kind of move forward, but I'm quite proud in our faculty, and we have a good product that we're looking forward to. And it does, just so you know, say that it has first-year programs, first-year classes, seminars embedded in it, and also, yeah, I know we fall hard for it, and we also have a social justice component to it as well. That will be mandatory, and it's not going to be in one class, but rather spread out in a bunch of different classes. So we're excited. Secondly, I've said this a couple of times. I don't know if I've said it here, but the only reason I ran for chair of Faculty Senate was because I wanted to play a role in this incredible transition of executive people here at Plattsburgh. I just wanted to be a part of it, right? And same thing applied this year. I wanted to help our new president and many new VPs be as successful as possible. I don't know if I'm successful in that, but I will say that, you know, despite COVID, it's been a really great semester. The Faculty Executive Committee is meeting regularly with Ann and Alex, Ann Herzog and Alex. I've met with all the VPs, had a great meeting with Lizzie, always have good meetings with Michelle. And I did want to speak on behalf of Ann Herzog, who you don't know very well yet, but we've picked a very, very good provost. We should be very happy with the search, and she reminds me what it means to be an academic, and that's always what you want in a good provost. So I expect wonderful things from Ann, from Alex, and all the VPs. As far as Senate business, we're doing what everyone else is doing. A lot of effort is moving forward in implementing general education, so they're really busy right now. We have some new policies that are coming down the pipe, where Plattsburgh is this semester all the way up until, I believe, spring 22. SUNY has kind of asked us to be, or told us to be, test optional. So if you're an undergraduate student who wanted to apply to Plattsburgh, you wouldn't have to take the SAT or the ACT. And what we're trying to do is make that permanent. And this is an initiative that's coming out of admissions, and our academic policies committee is working steadily with that. We're going to have a public meeting on Thursday to talk about this. There are a lot of good reasons for going test optional. So anyway, that's something else that's going to be coming down the pipe. Other than that, you know, we do what we do. Finally, I just wanted to close by reiterating Sandra's comments about the faculty. I remember listening to a podcast where some public high school teachers were talking about how after the third week, they felt like the whole semester was done, right? They were like, you know, just a kind of state of exhaustion that you know, that started in the summer, and then once you get started, you're like, oh my God, where's the energy? And I think we're all like that right now. You know, the faculty are hanging in there, but it's been a really tough one. And I think we were able to deliver a good product, not a great product, but a good product. We can hold our heads up high enough, I think. And I will say this, you know, Alex and the great team of people who've kept our numbers down have been awesome, but our students have been awesome as well. I mean, I'm so proud of them. I say that to them in all of our classes. It really appears that they stepped up their game, and they played by rules that that the whole country should be paying a lot more attention to. So our students will be good examples as we send them out into the future. So Marty, that concludes my report. Thank you, folks.
Thank you very much, Gary. Any questions of Gary? Okay. Thank you. Next up, Kim Hartshorn.
Hi, Marty. So UUP, this over the last month or more was at the statewide level was very involved in the election process and in advocacy, and is actually actively involved in advocacy now with the state, with the legislature to look at revenue raisers. So that's a main activity at the statewide level. The primary revenue raiser that they're looking at is a bill, I forget the sponsor of the bill in the Senate, but it is to stop the rebate of the stock transfer tax. So the stock transfer tax has been in place since the early 20th century. And but in 1981, during the New York City bankruptcy, it was rebated back to the payees. So they continue to, so the stock transfer tax continues to be paid, but it's rebated to the people who pay it. If the rebate is eliminated, so it can be eliminated through legislative action without actually imposing a new tax, because the tax is already there. It can raise, they think, $13 billion in the first year, which is significant. And the system right now, actually all of the state agencies are really in bad shape from a state allocations point of view. So that's one of the things that the statewide is working on. Locally, we've been working with the Provost's office and HR to make some clarifications to our agreements for promotion, reappointment, and tenure, and also the annual review on the professional side, in order to make them more compatible with the current environment, which would move us towards using electronic files. We're making some progress on it. There are two committees formed right now. The first one pretty much finished its work, which was a charge essentially to agree to some clarifications in language. And the other committee that was charged by the president is looking at commercial packages that might be able to do the job that we're looking for. Gary is chairing that committee. There will probably be a need for further work after that to work on some of the details in the agreement, to see what we can work on through clarifications and not renegotiating the agreement itself, which would add a complication. But we've been working well with Provost's office and with HR, and I think we're making progress in that area. Unfortunately, I do not believe we're going to be able to do electronic files this spring. It doesn't look like we can come up with the necessary with the necessary process to do it. But hopefully for next fall we will be there. So that's pretty much my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Okay, very good. Zetho Facto present?
She is not.
Is not. Okay. All right. Well, that seems to carry us through to our reports. Do anyone have any old business to be brought before the board? Any new business for the council? I'll make a mention that our next council meeting is scheduled for the 15th of February in either, hopefully, the Maori Conference Room in Red Cave, or it will be by remote link at 1 p.m. Okay. Having said that, entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I so move.
How did I know that was going to be made by Sid? Okay.
I unmuted myself getting ready.
We have a motion that we adjourn that does not require a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed?
Hi, Sal.
Hey, Sid.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Carried. Thank you, all of you, for being here. I appreciate it. We did have a quorum. And believe me, that's appreciated. So thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Yes.